Well, hello. Welcome to my hotel room here in Nashville, Tennessee with Matt Pauley. I'm Tom Ackerman. Matt is in beautiful St. Louis. I'm here in Nashville doing some college hoops. We'll be back very shortly, and we are talking baseball and a little basketball, a little football, a little hockey. But as always, the Gashouse gang on KMOX is concentrating on Cardinal baseball, and we have some news this morning. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, Tom. It's good to see you as always.
Good to see you. We have a new farm director for the St. Louis Cardinals, not to mention three new directors, really. You've got a new director of player development, Larry Day. You have a new director of performance. I believe it's pronounced Carl Kochan. I'm not completely sure, but I'm very happy about this hire, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Matt Pierpont is the director of pitching. We kind of already knew that one. He let the cat out of the bag in an Instagram post not long ago, I believe. He comes from Seattle. Kochan comes from the Dodgers, having spent some time with the Giants. I really like that. I've been kind of begging for that one. And then Day was with the Cleveland Guardians. So clearly that is a Surfolio hire as he brings in somebody that he trusts very much, Matt.
Yeah, so a couple things. First off, all these hires are technically Rob Surfolio hires. I'm sure Heim Bloom and probably even John Mozeliak had some input on these things as well. When they hired Surfolio, I think that because you can't really make moves for even job. You have to take steps up when you go from one team to another team if you're under contract. So when they hired Surfolio, they made it really, really clear that he was going to be overseeing things and he was going to be making hires. So I think that's part of this. But yeah, you mentioned one guy who comes over for Larry Day, comes over from the Cleveland Guardians. Tom, that's an organization that's done a really good job of producing high-level talent, and they perform at the big league level, punching above their weight pretty much on an every-year basis. So I'm excited about these moves. I'd be lying to you if I could sit here and tell you that I can break down the strengths and weaknesses of all three of these individuals. But from what we know, just at a surface level right now, the fact that Day does come in, he's got a coaching background, he's got a coordinator background, he's got some collegiate experience as well, having coached at both Ohio and Vanderbilt. He's got playing time in the Yankees farm system. That just seems like a guy who's going to really come in, make an impact right away. We talked about Pierpont a little bit previously because, like you said, he let it out of the bag on social media, and an exciting move there for the Cardinals as they try to start producing high-end pitching from out of the minor league system, which is something they've not done a lot of recently, and is kind of the key to this whole redevelopment of the player development system. You really want two things. You want them to start having their high-end hitting prospects actually get to that point, and when they get to the big leagues, they fulfill their promise. But then from a pitching standpoint, you want to be better in developing pitching that can pitch well at the big leagues. So if they can get those two things done, this whole thing is going to be a rousing success.
Absolutely. Pay for the technology, pay for the people, pay for the instructors, pay. I mean, the Cardinals have money, but they are distributing money in a different way now. Instead of patching with free agents and buying aging players, which, look, I mean, this was a request of some of the people in that clubhouse. We need to add some veteran presence. We need some leadership. We need some accountability, etc. Didn't work. And now it is time. I mean, the patches and Band-Aids are over. Put them away, back into the first aid kit, and let's get this thing going. And the Cardinals have spent money and spent their resources on player development, and it is going to continue. They will not stop here. And I'm really happy about this. Now, just so we all understand, yes, everybody is involved in this. As Matt just appropriately put, this is Rob Surfolio's hire. But this is approved from the very top. This is Bill DeWitt, and it's not just Bill DeWitt, but they have an entire ownership group that is very hands-on. They have an ownership group that knows baseball, that is going to be pushing very hard here to make this work. Because they're all invested in it. Then John Mozeliak, who is the top dog still, even though they are in transition, is the one who reports to ownership and tells them what they are doing. But make no mistake about it, Heim Bloom has plenty of control here, not only with the player development, but he has a lot of say in what the future of this major league club is going to be. And so they are listening very closely to what Heim is saying, and he's talking to everybody, everybody all up and through that organization as much as he can. Mozeliak still calls the shots, but they are in a transition period here, and Bloom has plenty of influence. Serfolio is working for Bloom. Serfolio hires the farm director who will report to Serfolio, etc. Let me get to the pitching director. So explain to people a little further from what you can tell here as to what that position is, as opposed to what pitching coach Dusty Blake is implementing from his end.
Yeah, essentially the pitching coordinator here is going to, the pitching director sets up the pitching plan that's going to be utilized throughout the minor league system. Now, there does need to be coordination between the minor leagues and the major leagues. You don't want guys doing something in the minor leagues and then all of a sudden being asked to do something very different at the big leagues. And I don't think that's going to happen. But the pitching director oversees all aspects of what's going on pitching wise throughout the minor league system. So they're having daily conversations with pitching coaches. They're putting together pitching plans for individuals. They're probably involved in the conversation about when to move a guy up from AA to AAA and everything else. When to, you see it a lot in the minor league season. You pump the brakes on some guys. Guys get a few too many pitches on them, and they say, okay, it's time to slow this guy down. Maybe his next time out, he's going to throw 2 or 3 innings as opposed to 5 or 6. All those decisions that are being made, everything that they do, it all goes through the desk of the pitching director.
Yes, indeed. And then when it comes to performance, man, is this outstanding. And just a little bit more, and you talked a little bit about Cochin. And again, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce his name. I'm actually, I think it's Cochin. I'm almost 100%, because if the Cardinals found it to be different, they would have laid that out for us in terms of a pronunciation guide. But I'm about 99% sure that it's Cochin. But anyway, he has a great resume. I mean, he really does. The Giants had him as strength and conditioning coach, but I love that he was with the Dodgers. I mean, I've been begging, Matt, for the Cardinals for years to start stealing people. Maybe not for years, the last couple years when things went south in the 23 season. Go steal ideas, steal people. That's what other teams do. I mean, everybody was looking at the Cardinals for years as to how do they do it. And it's time to go get people. He coordinated the strength and conditioning throughout the minor leagues. Go get their ideas, get the people who are doing things. And the Dodgers are known for having a high payroll. They could have a $500 million, $600 million payroll if they wanted to and buy every player. But that's not all the reason why they're good. They're good because they throw money at their player development. Their minor league system, their prospects have it all. They have everything they could possibly want.
And this is not your strength and conditioning coach from high school who's sitting there in the corner and telling you to do another rep. Like there is some high level scientific type stuff going on when it comes to strength and conditioning, that every single player receives an individual plan, the biometrics that go along with pitching, things like that. It's connected to health. It's connected to, the pitching coach and the strength and conditioning coach are going to work things out together because they want it all to kind of come together. So this is a position that hadn't really, it existed and then it didn't exist for a little while after COVID. And now it's back in there. And you like the fact that this guy's been a major league strength and conditioning coach. He's been a minor league coordinator when it comes to strength and conditioning. He checks all the boxes when it comes to that. And I think that the Cardinals just got better. Tom, they're going to be healthier. They're going to be stronger. Guys are going to be able to stay on the field better. All those things that you want. This is a huge part of sports now. And I think people would be amazed if they knew the type of technology and the type of science that was going into strength and conditioning these days.
Larry Day was an assistant field coordinator. He spent basically a decade in the Guardian system. He's also coached here at Vanderbilt University here in Nashville and other areas, and was a player in the Yankees farm system. This is somebody who knows background. I don't know as much about him, but we're going to find out quite a bit. And I'll be curious to see how the rest of the front office kind of plays into all of this new structure. This transition period is extremely important. Let's not forget that Bill DeWitt and John Mozeliak started this. As much criticism as they get, they're the ones who, Mozeliak, when Bloom became available, called DeWitt and said, I think we should talk to Chaim Bloom. And DeWitt said, that's really something, because I was about to call you about the same thing. They both saw that Bloom was going to be available, so they brought him in for an extra set of eyes. We all saw what was going to happen. When Mozeliak talked, I believe it was as early as spring training last year, when he kind of laid out, this transition period for him, we knew what was about to happen, that Chaim Bloom was going to be the guy, and that he was going to start hiring people, and they were going to redo this thing. Look, this is not the easiest sell for fans, because everybody wants to win, and they want to win now, and completely get that. And perhaps if there was a gripe of some fans, it would be, you should have done this earlier. And that's why I think that eventually over time, people will see that this plan is the right move. This had to happen, and it is happening right before our eyes. And these are 3 big hires. Not everything is going to work perfectly, but I do think that Bloom's track record is such that it will work. To some extent, it is up to, of course, the end result, which is developing players that become stars. But the groundwork looks like it's the right deal.
And Tom, I think this is a really important thing from a timing perspective, because next week is the winter meetings. And if you're somebody out there that wants a job, you can go to the winter meetings and you can meet with people. And there are still a lot of positions to be filled in this organization. And specifically, I think from a coaching standpoint, we've made so much of the fact that there hasn't been a roving outfield coordinator and a roving catching coordinator and all those type of positions that most major league teams have. Well, now with these hires today, they've got the people in place to be able to go out and make those hires. And I would think there's going to be some conversations happening in Dallas next week.
And, John Mozeliak, again, just to finish with him on this point, I understand he gets a ton of criticism. And there are some very vocal fans that are saying, why is he still there? I mean, if we're doing all of this change, then Mozeliak's messed all this up. Blah, blah, blah. There's a lot that John Mozeliak does beyond making trades and signing free agents. He is very, very much hands-on with the infrastructure of the entire organization, including a new spring training complex that will be going up as soon as that last out is recorded in spring training. They will be tearing down their place. They're already started to renovate some of it. And he's oversees that. He oversees a lot of the travel. Remember, he was the point man for COVID and oversaw all of that. There's a lot of knowledge that Mozeliak can pass on in terms of who's who and what's what to Chaim Bloom. He has to be there. I mean, you can't just give the guy the job cold. You got to have some sort of guidance. And that's what John is going to do. And that will be his role. And I assure you, he is not opposed to that. I mean, I don't sense any of that. I think that's exactly where he's going to be. And Garland's right. I mean, I think maybe less than 3, but certainly 3 is the limit when it comes to, does this team find itself to be back in the hunt for a World Series? I think 2 is reasonable and 3 is probably realistic.
I think the other thing here with Mo sticking around, I think in some ways it kind of protects Chaim. And let's think about the background of Chaim Bloom. He gets to Boston. What's the first thing he has to do? He has to trade Mookie Betts. He is working from behind the 8 ball. He is not a fan favorite from the moment he gets that job because he's so connected to that trade. If Bloom takes over this year, and look, I think the Cardinals are going to play a little bit better than we're expecting them to. I think they're going to be around 500. I think they're going to be in playoff contention. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. I think it's going to look very similar to what it looked like this past year. The difference being you're doing it with young guys and you're doing it with guys who are going to get better, and you're learning and you're building and you're doing all those things. That's my expectation. I think that's going to happen for this team this year. I could be wrong. What if they lose 90? If they lose 90 this year, which also isn't out of the realm of possibility, if they are a 90-loss team and John Mozeliak just walked away, well, then the first thing Chaim Bloom is connected to is this 90-loss team. So let this transition start. Let Chaim really focus in on the infrastructure and the process of player development. Let him have a voice in the room. I don't think Mozeliak's going to do anything from a long-term perspective that Bloom doesn't also sign off on. He's not going to he doesn't want to leave this team worse than he found it. He doesn't want to put them in a lurch. He doesn't want to have conflict in the room. So all these things are going on. I I understand the criticism of John Mozeliak. A lot of the criticism is warranted because at the end of the day, the rosters that have been put together and the final results do fall to his responsibility. But I think we need to separate that out from what's actually happening right now. And John Mozeliak being in place, I think, has more positives than negatives. And last thing on that, Tom, I actually think that this is such a heavy project for Hein Bloom to redo player development. From a long-term perspective, I don't want him really worried about the everyday big league roster and things like that. Like the bigger project, the more important project for the long-term future of the St. Louis Cardinals is actually the stuff that Heim's going to be working on this year, not the stuff Mo's working on.
This is the Gashouse Gang on KMOX. We are sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Thanks to Bernie Miklas for bringing in our great sponsor. Bernie will be tomorrow with Kevin Wheeler and with Matt Pauley, my partner here, on Friday. Matt, I should say that we have requested an interview with Hein Bloom. I should probably put that out because I think a lot of people would like to hear from him. He was a breath of fresh air in that press conference that they had with Bill DeWitt III, Bill DeWitt Jr., John Mozeliak, when they made the announcement of the plan. And he has not done an interview to my knowledge. Of course, we'd love to be the first as their rights holder here, but understandable that he'll probably be rolled out at some point at the winter meetings and for everybody to get their opportunity. I look forward to hearing your coverage along with Mike Claiborne and Ricky Horton, the winter meetings down in Dallas. Before we move on to any other topics, let's get into that a little bit. What are your expectations? You've covered the winter meetings. What do you look to see here in this next week?
Yeah, I think from an industry standpoint, my belief is actually there's going to be a little bit more activity this year. Last year, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. It was, it was bad for baseball because you get everybody out there, MLB Network and ESPN, and you've got these sets and everybody's together. Like, this is an opportunity to put a spotlight on the game of baseball. And anytime you can do that, I think it's an important thing. So I was really disappointed that really not much happened. I think there's going to be a little bit more, all eyes from an industry standpoint are going to be on if a Soto deal gets done. And I think that could happen in the winter meetings. For me, the two things for the Cardinals that I'm going to be watching, I don't think like a Helsley deal gets done. I think that happens later in the offseason if it does happen. But based off what we've been hearing lately about Nolan Arenado, a week ago I would have told you that I don't think a deal gets done for him at the winter meetings because there's other things with Bregman and Bohm and Devers and Adames. Like, there's other things with third basemen or guys who can play third base or maybe coming off of third base that have to get figured out first. But Tom, I'm reading all these things, and there seems to be some conversations going on right now, and maybe Arenado kind of jumps the line. And then I think the team trades Steven Matz, and I would say there's a pretty good chance that he ends up getting moved. So Arenado and Matz are the two guys that I want to see if the Cardinals move between Monday and Thursday of next week.
Paint the picture for us. Lobby in the hotel. You get down there, grab yourself a coffee or whatever drink of choice and kind of make the rounds. What do people do there? And again, it's more than just what you see on MLB Network and beyond. It's a baseball convention. You got people from all over the place trying to get a job or, sell some whatever it is, they're baseball related whatchamacallits, or, a service, or there's lots of media. There's, I'm sure, some sponsors bouncing around. What is it like from your perspective?
Yeah, and it's changed a little bit since COVID because, the big professional baseball employment organization job fair, that actually doesn't even exist anymore. People certainly still go there, but if you go there to try to find a job, you're either scheduling something ahead of time or you're just walking around the lobby trying to find people. I did that. I remember when I was looking for a job years ago in baseball, I showed up and there was a list of people that I wanted to introduce myself to, and I was just always constantly walking because I knew I would see anybody or see just about everybody while I'm there. There's a lot of meetings going on. It is more than just major league stuff. You're going to get, everybody in the organization shows up. Everything for the upcoming year is being put in place. Every single ballroom and every single meeting room is being used at any given moment. where you see what you see on TV. There's going to be a row, basically a media row, where all the different national networks, radio and TV, they're all set up. So you see MLB Network, you see ESPN's Baseball Tonight, you see all those. And then there's a big media workroom behind that. There's press conferences all the time going on with managers. And then something the Cardinals do, which is rather unique, John Mozeliak will meet with the Cardinals media every single night just to kind of give an update on how things are going. So we don't really see Mo making the rounds outside of his suite very often. He'll generally do an interview or two, like he'll go down and talk to MLB Network. But outside of that, he is mostly in his suite on the phone, and people are coming to him, and he'll go to other suites. But he's not somebody that you see out. But I remember first time going to the winter meetings, Tom, when I was, fresh out of college, and just walking around and seeing all these people that are, the famous of the famous when it comes to baseball, because currently and formerly, like, just everybody's there, and it's a very cool environment to be around.
It is. It's a great sport, with great personalities and people who really care about it. And I do think part of the conversation, we had this conversation yesterday, Kevin Wheeler and I did. So, Matt, I'd love to get your thoughts. There will be a lot of talk about continuing to grow this game and to let young people grab onto it. And how do you compete with the NFL and the NBA and college football, I should also add, which is probably 1A to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go get those young players? We kind of blasted the Golden at Bat yesterday and all that stuff yesterday. I saw that Michael Kay, our esteemed colleague in New York, is now blasting those who are blasting the Golden at Bat. It's not the way. The young fans are coming in. You don't need to gimmick them to pull them in. But anyway, just an overarching topic, I do think, because it does happen at the winter meetings, will be that as well.
Look, right now, the game of baseball has to focus on there is so much young, exciting, athletic talent in Major League Baseball doing things on the baseball field on an every night basis that we really haven't seen before. And the example of that in St. Louis is obviously Mason Wynn. And in a very short amount of time, Mason Wynn has become, if not one of the most popular players. And when it comes to kids, if we go walk into West County Center, Tom, here during the holiday shopping period, and just go ask kids who's their favorite Cardinal, I bet more than half of them who would say Mason Wynn. That's where we're at right now. So Major League Baseball needs to do a really good job of recognizing the marketable players, and I think Wynn is the Cardinals' example of that, and making sure that they're out there. Baseball has done a terrible job of marketing players, and part of the problem is baseball in the regular season is very much a localized regional sport. Baseball is still trying to figure out how to nationalize it. LeBron James can't go walk down the street in any city without being recognized. Mike Trout can. And that's part of the problem here that baseball has to get figured out.
By the way, if you're watching us, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And if you're watching us on another social media channel, just make that note. Or if you're listening to this replay or watching this replay, just make that note, go to YouTube and subscribe to KMOX Sports. And while you're at it, subscribe to The Bernie Show. This is the Gashouse Gang on KMOX with Matt Pauley. I'm Tom Ackerman. It's great to be along with you. And, this is a great time of year. College football is alive and well. We had a lot of discussion yesterday about who should go where in the college football playoff rankings. This is great. Projections are great and all, but it all comes down to Sunday. When that ranking comes out on Sunday, that's the real deal. This is just a projection because all heck could break loose this weekend. I don't like the conference championship games now. I mean, they mean something to the rankings, but the drama to me, and I get it, like they make money and all that stuff, but the drama to me is what happens in the regular season, playing at home stadiums. Can you win on the road? Can you not? Not can you win in a bland environment in Indianapolis where they're having trouble selling tickets to the Big Ten championship because it's Oregon and Penn State. I mean, Ohio State's not there. Penn State will draw some fans. If you live in Oregon, are you going to fly to Indianapolis to watch your team? They already won. I mean, they're already number one. It doesn't matter. The SEC championship's different. Those fans are absolutely out of their minds. It's, Georgia and Texas. I mean, those are two massive brands. They're going to duke it out, and actually does mean something because one of them is going to get a bye in the first round. So it's in the, of course, the others we all know, Arizona State, Iowa State, blah, blah, blah. All those are really important. But I don't know. It lacks a little punch for me, especially as a Big Ten guy.
So here's the thing that bothers me, because the committee was asked about this. So you have SMU matched up against Clemson in the ACC championship game. And SMU right now is 11-1 with a number 8 college football playoff ranking. They should be in the college football playoff no matter what. And now they have to go play this conference championship game. And basically, the committee said yesterday that there absolutely is a scenario where if Clemson won that game, then SMU could drop out. So you should not be dropping out of a spot because you lose in the conference championship game against a pretty good team. Clemson's good. Clemson's very good. If you're SMU, there's literally no incentive to play this game. If you just said, you know what, we're going to forfeit this game and we're not going to play it, and Clemson can have the auto bid into the college football playoff, in many ways, that might actually help SMU, because you can't ding on, and you can't do that. I'm just throwing out like this crazy hypothetical. But that would help SMU in the sense that they don't have a game that kind of knocks them down. Obviously, a lot of talk about Alabama being in front of Miami. You got that group of Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. Feels like those 4 teams are competing for one spot, and I think you can make arguments for any of the 4 for different reasons. I'm not a big fan of the committee, and I am concerned about a team like SMU playing in a conference championship and ruining their opportunity to be in a college football playoff.
And if SMU was a bigger brand of football, I mean, let's be honest, SMU, which is a beautiful campus down in Dallas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area has got some great ones, and SMU is probably up near the top in terms of beauty and all that stuff, but it's not your classic, college football environment. I mean, people still, even this season, they're not coming in there packing the place and ranting and raving. If it was a bigger brand, you'd hear much more hollering about it, much more. It comes down to the pressure. Alabama can't stop talking about everything that's going on for them because they've got the biggest brand of all of them. They've got arguably the biggest fan base and the craziest fan base, and God love them, but it really is irritating. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, SMU, I think they're going to lose.
I kind of do too. Yeah,
I think Clemson is going to beat them, and Clemson lost one bad game early in the year to Georgia. Then they regrouped. They ended up losing to South Carolina, and again, probably the hottest team in the country, by a field goal. And in between there, they lost to Louisville. That's a game they shouldn't have lost, but they're a very talented team. The other championship games, you've got UNLV, Boise State has some interest, but it doesn't have a major ripple effect. It would knock Boise State out of the playoff. The Iowa State, Arizona State has some interest, of course, as one of those would get an opportunity, although the Big 12 has been kind of trashed here recently. I think that it's a big weekend for the playoff, but I don't think it should be.
I also, Tom, I think I've talked about this before. I really dislike the way they work out the first round buys. I'm fine with the Big 12 champion getting in the college football playoff. I'm fine with the top group of 5 champions, so that the Mountain West champion getting in. Like I am good with all those things, but I am not good with a conference champion getting a first round bye simply because they're a conference champion. We do the basketball tournament, teams don't get 1 seeds because they won their conference tournament. They get an auto bid. So the first round bye should just be the top 4 teams. And if the top 4 teams are all from the SEC, then fine. I don't care. The top 4, that's 4 teams that get the bye. Then you have a true bracket. A bracket is meant to give the best teams the best opportunity, playing the teams that are lower in the bracket. The fact that we're giving some conference, so either the Mountain West champion or the Big 12 champion, depending on what shakes out here, is probably going to get a first round bye, and there is no reason for that.
Yeah, well, you know what happened? I mean, you've got these leaders in college football, these commissioners are like, yeah, okay, we'll do the playoff, but you got to give us a first round bye. So if you win that automatically we get our team in there. I mean, I said this 25 years ago when I'm drawing up. I said it on KMOX in 99, 2000. Tim Klutzaritz, our producer, and I put together a bracket of 16 teams, and we said 9 conference champions and 7 at-larges. Now, that seems kind of silly today because you can't have 9 conference champions. Right. Things have gotten so big. These conferences are so massive now. It really comes down to, I'd say, 4 or 5. So you do the 4. I don't care. Do 5. So it would be SEC, Big 10, ACC, Big 12, Mountain West. Those seem to be the Big 5 at this point. So they get an automatic bid, and then you seed them. You add the at-larges, 7 at-larges, or whatever it is, and you seed them. I still would do 16, but you seed them, and you go.
Yeah.
And, it's a bracket. I mean, hello, has anybody watched college basketball? It's unbelievable. Every single year, March Madness is must watch. In fact, it's gotten so big that fans have sort of ignored the regular season, and they concentrate on March Madness. College basketball still has it right. And by the way, they should not expand that field.
No.
Keep it the way it is. Field of 68 is fine. Leave it. But it's special. It's an elimination. It's easy to follow. You can fill it out. This thing, I'm still – and I follow college football every single day, and I'm like, wait a minute. So Indiana is ranked 9, but they're a 10 seed. It's just so ridiculous. Anyway.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. So before we move on, I'm going to talk some hockey in just a minute. But on that note, college basketball, let me just say a quick thing about hoops, and you can comment if you'd like. SLU has a lot of work to do. The Billikens are a work in progress under Josh Schertz. Robbie Avila, Isaiah Swope, Gibson Jimerson, 3 great players. He's going to ride them as far as he can ride them with Kalu Anya rebounding and Kellen Thames if he can stay on the floor because he's been cramping, and Amari McCautry filling in for him, and, of course, Larry Hughes the second, and whoever else can fit in there. But it's really only going to be a 7-8 man rotation he's going to ride all season. They will get better. I assure you of that. He does it every time. His offenses have a track record, and he has a track record of winning 78% of his games in college basketball. They're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Illinois, really nice team.
Really good.
Brad Underwood's an absolute killer, and he has that team playing like maniacs. I love it. He's a college basketball junkie. I think he's incredible. I really do. And then
good K-Stater.
What's that?
Good K-Stater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like him when he plays against Indiana. Other than that, I love him. But then you have Mizzou. I don't know that people are talking enough about the University of Missouri and what they're doing. They were expected to beat Cal yesterday. They got behind. They came back. They won the game. They scored 98 points. They're moving the basketball. I think Caleb Grill, who, by the way, people might forget, got hurt a year ago, hurt his wrist. He was out for the rest of the year. They were never the same. They weren't going to be great in the SEC anyway. But this is going to be a big turnaround for them, and I think they're pretty darn good. Can they give Kansas a game this weekend? I don't know. I mean, Kansas is unbelievable. But they get to play it at home, and they get to have a little fun with their fans. And I think that finally – they get to celebrate a little bit what they have. Dennis Gates is a pretty good coach.
He's a real good coach. So last night in that game, they're down at halftime, and then they just go off in the second half, scoring 62 or 68 points, whatever it was. Eli Hoff wrote this in the Post-Dispatch and STL today. I find this really interesting, and Tom, this connects back to how good of a coach Dennis Gates is. Says, in Missouri's previous 7 games, the Tigers had seen 50 pick-and-roll possessions end with the ball handler recording a shot, foul, or turnover. On Tuesday, they had 38, according to Synergy tracking data, more than double the most logged in any other game this season. He changed the offense at halftime, Tom, and he went to this pick-and-roll offense. That's not always going to work. You show me a team that does that over and over and over. And they also had a lot of mid-range jumpers. That's not the way you win basketball games. You win basketball games close to the hoop and on three-point shots. But sometimes you can win that way. And for them to change the offense the way they did yesterday and then go off the way they did, that was fantastic coaching by Dennis Gates.
Absolutely was. And they didn't even have Grill because he didn't do anything last night, but they will have I think, a talented team. I mean, you look right down the line. Anthony Robinson II had 29 points. Mark Mitchell had 21. Tamar Bates, the Indiana transfer, had 15. 7 to 12 from the floor is a very, very good day for them. They are going to find that they have some depth. They have some scorers. If they can defend, they can be pretty good in the SEC. SEC is super, super competitive without question. It is the Gashouse Gang, KMOX with Matt Pauley. I'm Tom Ackerman. We're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Love our sponsor. Love visiting with you. Just got a few minutes left. Speaking of great coaches, Jim Montgomery. Now, before we start to throw out all the superlatives and all the great accolades for Montgomery, it's only 4 games. But they did just beat the team that's probably the hottest in the league, the best in the league right now, the Winnipeg Jets, 4-1. And they're 3-0-1 under Jim Montgomery. An elite coach. They went out and got him. They're obviously playing better. The reports from inside the room are things are looser. They're fun. They're focused. They're being held accountable. And there is some harmony. So we'll see how long it lasts. But right now, they look pretty tough as they start this road trip.
That second period yesterday might be the best period of hockey they have played this season. And they weren't getting, was it 19 shots on goal, I believe? I think that's the most they've had this year. And they weren't scoring. And then Montgomery talked about this in the postgame, that they got to that final media timeout. And the word was, just keep doing what you're doing and you're going to get rewarded. And lo and behold, they scored 2 goals before that period came to an end. Jordan Kyrou had a couple goals in there. Dylan Holloway is looking really, really, really good. He's starting to come into his own. That's an important part of this. He had a goal and an assist last night. Tom, it feels different. I have to keep telling myself it's just a handful of games. It's a brand new coach, but there's a lot of season left. This is a core group that has done some not so great things over the last couple of years. Don't make this team better than they actually are, but it's fun. And the Blues haven't been fun I don't know if you agree with this or not. I think they've been an incredibly boring, non-compelling team for the better part of the last year plus. And you hire Jim Montgomery, you bring in a guy who can be the face of the organization, who's got a big personality, who has the respect of players, and who has put the puck on goal. That's what they are doing over and over and over. That is an exciting brand of hockey. Force the goalie to make saves or score goals. This team is so much more compelling than they have been in a long time, and I don't think that's going to change. I think that's just going to get better as he continues to more and more put in his system, which is probably going to take a month or so.
And this is the challenge that the Cardinals have, because the Blues for the last 2 years were in this redevelopment, very similar to what the Cardinals are embarking on right now, where they had to get younger. They had to, and by the way, their salary cap situation is not good. It's probably the worst in the league. So they've got to figure that out. The Cardinals don't have to worry about that part of it. But what they have to worry about is, how do we stay compelling while we are developing? And the Blues, I would agree with you. I mean, I like going to hockey games. I love sitting there as a fan, drinking a beer and screaming and yelling and having fun, watching everybody. And the fans are awesome. And it's a great atmosphere, and they do a good job inside the building. But you're just saying the overall storyline of the team, when you're following it, who are you following? Who are the stars? What's compelling about it? It ran out of gas with Craig Berube. They tried to get this thing going with Drew Bannister. It didn't work. And credit to the Blues, Doug Armstrong, Alexander Steen, everybody else involved for getting aggressive and bringing in Jim Montgomery. Wholeheartedly agree with you. Matt Pauley, you've got Sports Open Line coming up this evening. What you got?
Our guy, Bernie Miklasz, will be on tonight at 6:20. We'll talk some Blues hockey as well with Andy Strickland this evening. We've got a few other things to talk through. Much of these conversations that we've had today, Tom, will continue to talk through them tonight from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
My man, always great visiting with you. I will have some college hoops tonight and then heading back. That's why you're seeing the drapes behind me. We enjoy being with you here on the Gashouse Gang at KMOX and KMOX.com.